Hey, you want to see something really scary?
What's your favorite scary movie?
I'm gonna scare the hell out of you.
What was living behind that boy's eyes was purely and simply evil.
They're coming to get you, Barbara.
When there's no more room in hell, the dead will walk here.
What's blood for, if not for shedding?
Welcome to Fright Night.
Welcome back to Jump Scare. I'm Betty.
And I'm Shad.
This week we're covering Friday the 13th, Part 7, The New Blood.
This is the one you've been waiting for.
What's happening to me?
Your psychokineses and these delusions.
No, you're not listening to me!
The one you've been asking for.
Hey, Tina, isn't this the way they wear their jackets back in the mental hospital?
Concentrate. Concentrate, Tina!
The one you've been dying for.
You people give me the creeps.
Okay, you big hunk of a man, come and get me!
Jason is back. But this time, someone is waiting.
Jason?
Tina, don't go in there!
Friday the 13th, Part 7, The New Blood.
There goes the neighborhood.
Well, it's obviously Friday the 13th again. The only Friday the 13th this year, which is bullshit.
Also, it is Jason's birthday. June 13th. Probably like 1960. I don't know when he was born. We're going to assume that he was born in 1960.
The camp was in the 50s, so he would have had to have been born like 1950 or something. And the camp hadn't been closed for like 20 years in the original in 1980, so he was already like 7 years old.
There's a lot of math. His birthday is June 13th, 1946.
Wow.
Yeah, that's crazy.
Oh, that's right, he was. Like, didn't she say he was 13 when he died? Yeah.
Yeah, so he was born in 1946, guys. So he real old. But technically, he died in the second film. Right?
Well, he was already dead in the first one. Somehow he came back in the second one.
Was he though? No, wait, no. Was he already dead? Oh, yes, because he died as a child. Okay.
And then somehow he came back as an adult.
This is where it's like, you don't... I would understand if he wasn't dead, okay?
Yeah.
She just was mad because they mistreated her son. And I felt like they should have just kept it like that he wasn't dead. He was actually living somewhere off the property in like one of the shacks. He saw his mother get killed. And that's what set him off to come back to the camp on act of revenge on all the campers that killed his mom, just like the mom did, you know, for the mistreatment of her son the first time around. I feel like that would have been the continuity. Like, it made more sense.
I feel like that's what they did in the 2009 version.
I think actually that is exactly what they did.
They show him like watching from the trees when she gets killed, and which makes a lot more sense, even though it makes no sense, because why would you need to go murder him if they hadn't done anything to your kid?
Because she was mad because they were too busy having sex. Maybe he did drown. Maybe he was normal. Okay, and he drowned, and then he became a little touched because he lost some brain cells because he was in a coma.
Could be.
He came back and he wasn't the same.
She had to take care of him after that.
Exactly. Yeah. But how we just went right into it and just totally just forgot about that we were actually doing Part 7. So, The New Blood.
Now, this was, from everything that we have read and watched about it, this was what they were hoping was going to be Jason versus Freddy. They were trying to set this up. They thought this would be the perfect time. They could come out and have this, but they couldn't agree on terms. So instead, someone put the idea out, what if Jason fought Carrie? But of course, they weren't going to get Stephen King's permission to put Carrie in there either. So they just made their own Carrie, which looked a lot, which in the early version when she's a young kid, looks a lot like the girl from Poltergeist. Looked like Carol Ann.
Carol Ann.
Yeah.
Tina Shepard is the girl that has to go up against Jason, played by the late Lar Park Lincoln, who passed away in April of this year. She is one of the final girls. There's not a lot of them in the Friday the 13th because, you know, Jason takes care of business and he kills all of them. As Shad already said, she has some telekinetic powers.
Yep, and some psychic abilities too. She can see briefly into the future from time to time.
She cannot see that her hair is going to be extremely frizzy, or that the guy that she's into is probably not going to be that much into her.
Yeah.
Or the lottery numbers for that.
Yeah. Her psychic abilities seem to just be occasionally flashes of who Jason was going to kill.
Now, the Terry Kaiser, who's Bernie.
He's Bernie from Weekend at Bernie's, the guy with the best job in the world. He just had to pretend to be dead for 2 movies.
Yeah. He was the Dr. Cruz in this film, and he was evil. He was trying to take advantage of Tina's disability, trauma.
Can you think of a movie? Well, no, okay. The only one I've thought of so far were the psychiatrists. Well, they had an evil psychiatrist in that one, but there was also a good one.
Heather Langenkamp was a good psychiatrist. Was she a psychiatrist? She was... Nah.
She was a student, I think, still.
Yeah, but she was studying.
She was studying. She was still good. And Bad Dreams, there was a good psychiatrist and an evil psychiatrist in that one.
Yeah.
But most of the time in the 80s and 90s, if there was a psychiatrist in a horror movie, they were evil. They were just up to no good.
Now, the opening portion of this film is Lar Park Lincoln's character.
As a child.
Tina. She's a child, as Shad stated. She looked like Carol Ann from Poltergeist.
Carol Ann!
And she, unfortunately, sees that her father is abusing the mother. They're out on a campsite. They're out in Crystal Lake. And she...
The random house that's just out there in the middle of nowhere that we've never seen before.
Yeah, she runs out, is very upset, or she's already out actually, but she runs towards
the dock,
and she's already upset. She hops in a boat. I don't know where she's
starts
going.
Going away in the boat.
Starts going away in the boat. It's literally nighttime. I don't know where she's going with her pastel fucking jumper and shirt. And the father goes after her, and, you know, it's the whole, like, I'm never gonna do it again, I'm sorry. And she's like, I hate you, Daddy, I hope you die. And then they have the most amazing dock, like, collapse, which we learned in the Camp Crystal Lake memories.
Yeah.
That actually was created, and it collapsed. It was able to collapse and reform itself, which is like mind-boggling. You can see it when it's shaking. When she's shaking it, you can see it, like how it's not like there's something about the construction of it that you're like, oh yeah, I could see that coming back, like collapsing and being
it's like a thing
back.
at Universal Studios or something that falls apart, but not really. It falls apart enough to be believable, but then they can reset it for the next show in 15 minutes.
I love it. I think that's fucking great.
What I love is the fact is that the dad just stands on the dock the whole time, never thinks, oh, I should jump off in the water to safety, or I should run back towards there. He just stands and holds on, oh, until the dock collapses on him and kills him, and they never bother to retrieve his body from this approximately 7 feet of water that he's in.
Yes, we did notice that at the end of the film. We were like, wait a second. Why wasn't his body ever recovered? It was in a lake, and he had the debris on him, and his body was never... For me, they never went to the authorities. They just left. Like,
yeah,
they
were
just
left.
like,
yeah, I guess Dad just packed up and left. You know, he was kind of a dick.
Yeah, wink, wink. Don't know what happened to him there. Like, okay. So, yeah, they just left his body there in Camp Crystal Lake. But you know what? He wasn't alone. He had a friend. And that friend was Jason Voorhees. Because Tommy Jarvis, in the previous film, was able to bring that mofo down and have him all chained up to a fucking big ass rock, and there he laid for like 10 years.
Now, I always love the fact that the best way to defeat Jason was with a giant rock and a chain around his neck. Not even that big of a rock, really. I mean, that guy punches people through houses, survives all kinds of things. You're telling me he couldn't drag that rock out of Crystal Lake?
It was a big rock, and no, he couldn't. He couldn't drag the rock. He later, in the next film, must get the electrocuted in order to gain the strength to remove himself, not from the rock, but from the chains. Because they have some plank of wood, and him, like, I guess, stabbed the machete through the plank of wood, and that's what is on top of him, while as he lay at the bottom of Crystal Lake, which is not how he ended up in this film, The New Blood, but nevertheless. So, you know, so the whole scene with the father in the beginning is just freaking comical. And then we are off, you know, we're grown, and the psychiatrist is like, the best way to, you know, figure out your grief and your trauma from your dad dying is to go exactly to where it all occurred, and let me just go there. And of course, you know, like any douche bag psychiatrist, he's literally like triggering her, he's recording her, you know. The mom is like totally okay with this. By the way, the mom is a vampire. I don't know if anyone has realized this or has brought this up at all, but the mom from when the girl was 8 years old to when the mom when she's 18, 19 years old has not fucking changed. Her hair changed, but she looks the damn sane. So she didn't lose any sleep over the loss of her husband, but then again, why would she? He beat her all the time.
I don't think anybody was upset about that. Well, no, she is upset about it because she's like, "Oh, Daddy, I wish I hadn't killed you."
No, but this is
you
what...
wished him dead.
Yeah, she wished him dead, and that's fine. Like, you understand. Okay, she's a little girl. She's upset. You know, she's seeing her mom go through this, you know, these events in her life. But what kills me is the dad is a hero in her eyes. She is like, so sorry. I wish he was back. I wish he wasn't dead. He was so great. Like, even the mom is like, I miss him too. Really? You do? Come on. First of all, like, why? Why? He did nothing but abuse you. And he was a liar, obviously. They all are. You know, I'm never going to do it again. Okay. Bullshit. Okay. Obviously, he never saw the burning bed. So it's just like one of those things like, okay, later on, you know, the mother and the daughter have this whole thing of, I guess it's been a long time. They forgot about the abuse. I don't know. But while all this is happening, we have a group of teenage kids that are in the cabin next door, and they're celebrating. They're trying to celebrate, had to throw a surprise party for their friend Michael. Which is like, they couldn't find another name for this guy. They named him Michael, but okay. Michael and said girlfriend got some car trouble, and they're not able to attend the party, and they have to walk 5 miles to Crystal Lake. And the kids are the typical kids. You got like the sci-fi nerdy, like aspiring nerd. You have the popular girl, snooty rich girl.
The nerdy girl.
You have the girl that's, you know, she's a little nerdy. No one's looking her way. And you have a, I want to say for the first time, I can't remember in the first one, there weren't any black people, right? We have a black couple.
Part 5 had a black couple, I believe.
No, I meant in like film, the OG film, and the second, like 1 through where we're at now. Besides the biker gang, or did that happen after?
No, part 5 had the couple though, because the guy that dies in the outhouse in part 5.
Yeah. So you have them, and they're super cute. And who's the? Oh, and then you have the hunky, you know, the hunk guy who's wearing. I feel like he's wearing the same like cut off like jersey shirt that Johnny Depp is wearing in Nightmare on Elm Street.
He's wearing that at one point, but then most of the movie, the rest of it, he's wearing like a sweater with a jean jacket over it.
They did mention that it was a little chilly on Camp Crystal Lake.
Yeah.
They are beside a lake, so
Yeah.
we don't really know when,
how cold it gets.
yeah, how cold it is or when this is even set. So
Now,
yeah,
of course, Tina, she goes out to the lake to think about what happened to her dad, looking at the repaired dock that's out there, and she gets a sense that there might be someone in the lake. So she reaches out with her psychic powers, and she inadvertently wakes up Jason, who's been sleeping peacefully all this time.
I don't know how she woke him up. She just like boiled the water. I don't know.
It popped him awake. He was like, oh shit, someone has psychic powers. And then he walks out of the lake. I'm guessing he walked out the other direction.
He did walk out the other direction.
Because otherwise he would have come to her and her family first and killed them and just probably kept on going.
When have you ever seen Jason Voorhees swim?
Yeah.
He doesn't swim.
Well, he does in this one a little bit. He walks on the bottom of the lake and grabs people.
Walking is not swimming, my friend. Also, like, he's obviously a zombie, right?
Yeah.
And that's where it's just like, this is the thing that kills me about Friday the 13th. Like, I can take Freddy, he's in the dreams. Like, okay. And then you learn, like, he freaking, like, made a deal with the demons. And
oh, yeah, they kept adding to that.
he's taking souls. And you're like, okay, he's a dream demon. Okay, they're great. I can do it. Michael Myers, like, obviously not, like, current day Michael Myers. Like, I'm in a retirement home, but I'm still out here in the streets trying to kill. Like, not that guy.
I'm still
but
after Jamie Lee Curtis.
Yeah, the OG Michael Myers, like, okay, teenager, so he's strong. He's alive. You know. Did he get shot 6 times? We don't know. Loomis, it was dark. He said he shot him 6 times, but we don't know if he actually did. Yeah, exactly. Especially when, like, there's no one there when you look down from the second story. So, you know, at some point, obviously, it just becomes apparent, like, okay, like, there's obviously Michael is a zombie, maybe, at some point. But for the longest one, he wasn't a zombie. He was just, like, a guy. He got shot. He did get a lot of rehabilitation because people took him in. The cult took him in. They took care of him. The old man by the road, the lake, the canal, whatever the hell you want to talk. He took care of him. The blind man. So he did have people like attend to his wounds. Okay. Jason, on the other hand, everything under the sun has been electrocuted, body parts chopped off, like all kinds of things.
Electricity is what brings him back. So every time they electrocute him, they just make him stronger.
Well, because that really like jumpstarts his heart.
Yeah.
Like that's like the whole thing, right? Okay. But he's grody, you know, and this one, I don't know what the decision was.
This one was the first. Well, part 6, he had come back from the grave. That was when he came back and he was the zombie. And he was all rotted and disgusting and everything. And they really rotted him up more after this one, after being underwater for 10 years.
He looks like the freaking, I want to say war veteran from House.
Yeah, he was
like
Richard Mall.
Or House, I'm sorry.
Yeah, it was the original one with Richard Mall, where he played the, I can't remember his name now. He was like the crazy sergeant that was after.
Yeah, he looks just like
William
that.
Cat, yeah.
And you could even see like his torn clothes in the back. You can see like his spine. He has his like bones in his finger. Like he got flesh coming off hard. He don't look good. He look real bad.
Now
and moldy.
There's a lot of crazy deaths in this movie. This is just Toolshed Jason.
Oh, yes. This Jason went to Lowe's. Every time you blink an eye, he killed somebody. A second later, he has another tool. It's like he's in the middle of the forest. Like, where did he get this tool?
A machete. A tent spike.
Yep.
His hands. He killed a couple people just with his hands.
A weed whacker, right?
The giant like weed whacker with the saw blade on it. He used like the weed hook looking thing. He did use a party horn to kill someone.
He did.
He didn't get that at Lowe's. Then he used just a plain old kitchen knife at one point because beggars can't be choosers. He used an axe a couple of times, and then he drowned the one girl. He just pulled her into the water and drowned her, right?
We're not gonna count water.
Yeah, so they
do sell water at Lowe's.
Yeah, he had a variety of weapons to kill with in this movie.
He sure did. I'm okay. Like he's around like the cabins when he's out in the middle of nowhere, and he has obviously no pockets. Okay?
I just assumed he just stabbed the knife in his leg and walked around with it until he needed it.
The weed whacker, though, is the one. That thing is massive. It was if he would have put it like to his side standing up, it was taller than him. And this is also, we forgot to mention.
No, I was getting to that.
Oh, okay.
Go ahead.
Kane Hodder's first film
as Jason.
Jason.
Yeah, and he would go on to play him in 3 more movies and the video game.
I also would like to point out that this whole film, after watching it again, I've come to the conclusion that this is just Happy Birthday to Me, Friday the 13th edition. He was upset that he was not invited to this birthday party, especially because he was like, excuse me, my birthday is June 13th.
Yeah, and that was the code name on the script was Birthday Bash.
Yeah, there you go. Birthday bash. So he was upset that he was not invited to a birthday party. That's why he killed the people with the party.
And it was also originally called Jason's Destroyer, which I'm assuming that would have been if they had brought in, someone like...
Freddy.
Yeah, Freddy.
That would have been like the thing. I can't even, in my mind, I can't even think why did they think that was even a good idea? Mind you, obviously, we all know they did Freddy versus Jason. I just never understood. I know in the comics you had Ash go against several people.
Freddy and Jason both.
Yeah, which I'm like, how do those worlds collide? It doesn't make any sense to me. I don't want to see...
Well, in the comics, he, Ash travels through time. He also travels through dimensions.
Okay, fine, but Freddy and Jason are not going to end up together. I know that they really pulled that out and made it happen.
They wanted to do it for years because they had the Universal Monster movies where they had Frankenstein versus Dracula and Dracula versus the Wolfman and all these ones where they crossed over.
Yeah.
And they were trying to do their own, even back then, they were trying to get their own little shared universe going where all the monsters could cross over.
Now, I would like to see, Chucky versus Leprechaun.
Yeah.
That would be pretty dope. Or, Ghoulies versus the Critters. See, that I'm into.
Science versus magic. That'd be Ghoulies versus the Critters.
But I'm not about the other crossover.
Now, if you were going to do a crossover between people that were going to fight, it should have been Freddy versus Pinhead. Because that would be both two mystical demon creatures coming against each other.
Pinhead doesn't really do anything, though. What does he do? I feel like I'm not about the Cenobites. I know this is about Friday the 13th, The New Blood. But really, what do they do? They're just...
They fulfill your sex fantasy.
No,
that you thought you wanted, but you really don't.
No, I don't want any of those sex fantasies. They're all about, tearing flesh apart. I'm not about that. Who wants that? Also, we never, and I may be wrong, because obviously I haven't seen every single Hellraiser movie, but I'm pretty sure there's never a scene where it's oh yeah, okay, they got the pleasure part. They're in the pleasure dome. There's no pleasure dome.
Well,
it's all hellish. From what we see on the screen.
All in how you look at it. Because their thing is one person's pleasure is another person's pain.
I'm sure no one wants their flesh ripped apart, okay? Or their souls ripped apart.
Dr. Chenard got into it in part 2, remember?
Yeah, he was already a sick ass. So he is excluded.
So there you go.
Also, he became one of them. Exactly. I can't with that fucking movie. That movie is the Actually, part 2, and this is really going to probably piss off a lot of Hellraiser fans. Part 2 is the best one.
Yeah, I think so too.
I think so. Not that part 1 is not good. Obviously, part 1 is fucking classic. But you don't really get a lot of the sense of where the Cenobites really thrive.
And their
where
sense of scale and all that.
Exactly. You get that in part 2. And for me, that's the whole point. Part 1 was just the crazy shit that they're doing, I want to say on Earth, but you don't really get the full sense of it. But anyways, back to Jason.
Now, back to Jason. This is also an interesting year because this came out the same year. This came out in 1988, which is the only year that there was a new Friday the 13th, a new Halloween, and a new Nightmare on Elm Street all in the same year.
Damn, what an amazing fucking time for...
Yeah, it was a good time for the horror franchises because they all had a new one out this year. And the director of this film, John Carl Buechler, worked on all 3 of them. He did makeup effects on
at the same time.
Yeah, this man directed this one. He did some of the makeup and effects on it on Friday the 13th as well. And then he also did work on Halloween and on The Nightmare on Elm Street. So, obviously, this guy got around and was pretty well respected by him because they let him work on all these movies simultaneously, you know?
This film opens with a recap of the previous films.
Which I like. I like that they kind of, show you everything that's happened in case you have missed one here and there.
Yeah, we 7 movies in. I need a recap.
This is also the last one to do a recap.
Yeah, well, before... Yes, fine.
Yeah, before it comes up to like part 9.
Yeah, well, I was going to say in the 2009 version...
Yeah, they do a little bit of a recap at the beginning, but this one, they used footage from all the old movies and that. Yeah, the 2009 one, they shot their own stuff for it.
Yeah, which is why if you look at IMDb for this film, you're going to see that Corey Feldman's in the film, but he was not in the film.
He's just in the recap, but they still had to pay him, I'm sure. So
yeah, of course, it's his likeness. So thank you, Chris McGlover. So
and Michael Biehn.
And Michael Biehn, yes. So now let's talk about Ben. Okay, Ben and his girlfriend are in the van having sex. Okay, This is the black couple, and they've been kicked out of the house. Okay, because someone wanted the room and they felt entitled to the room because that was their uncle's house. And all their guests were staying in the room, but they weren't in the van, and the girlfriend felt some kind of way. So they moved their other friends back to the van, and their friends are having sex in the van, okay? The guy jumps out of the van because they hear noise. They think it's Michael finally arriving to the birthday party because he's been late. Like, he's late. They don't know what's going on. Obviously there's no cell phone. And they think that he's shaking the van and fucking with them, and he goes outside. When Ben jumps out of the van, girlfriend has the sheet wrapped around her, so her titties are not popping out. And the guy literally has no shirt on. He jumps out of the van, puts the shirt on. He's already wearing pants and damn sneakers. Like, why was he having sex with pants and sneakers on? Like, I get that he pulled the pants down, but the sneakers, those were still on? Okay. That's weird. Maybe he needed some traction. I don't know.
Yeah, he obviously was planning on getting the hell out of there fast when he was done.
And then what gets me is he's blowing the party horn, which I feel like that's why Jason fucking killed him with it, or killed the girlfriend with it. He was bothered by the whole thing. He's blowing the party horn and blowing it and going, Michael, and calling Michael like Michael was a dog. It was very weird how he was trying to get Michael's attention. Obviously, Michael was not out there. It's just Jason. So it's like, what was the thought process in that? Why was he calling his friend like he was a dog? Maybe they had a weird relationship.
Yeah, I think everybody had a weird relationship in this movie.
They sure did. They were very intertwined. And then later, we have Nick. These are just the weird moments that I caught in the film that are like, oh, okay, that's weird. Nick is calling... Nick and the chick are going up, Tina. They're walking up and they're finding, like, where's everybody, right? She's freaking out. They're walking up and
she started to have visions of Jason murdering everyone at this point.
Yeah, and they see Michael in a tree. Now, he's in a tree. Not that he's, like, on top of the tree. Like, no, he's literally, like, intertwined in this tree.
This is another one of those examples of that I always loved in those 80s movies where the guy was the killer. He would kill someone, and then eventually they would find where he had stashed all the bodies in one place and pose them.
Conveniently.
I always feel like there'd be a good short film where it's just the killer like dragging all the bodies and like posing him and looking stopping, like kind of looking at him, putting his hands up to his face and going,
Don't fucking steal that idea. We're making that short.
No, he needs to be a little more to the left.
Yeah.
I feel like his arm should be up. And they're, just placing them all for maximum scare potential.
Yeah. I'm surprised Leslie Vernon did not cover that in his part when he was explaining how the serial killer...
Now, here's the part of this in the movie I love. All the 80s and 90s horror movies have to have a cat that jumps up and scares someone at some point.
Oh, wait. I didn't even get to finish my part about Michael and...
Sorry, go ahead.
And Nick. So Nick goes up, the guy's in the tree, and he's like, Michael, mind you, he's looking right at this man. The man's eyes are wide open. He's dead.
He's dead. Deader unless he had a toe tag on.
Yeah, he couldn't be. Face covered in blood. He's calling him like the motherfucker taking a nap. Like, hey, Michael. It's like, Nick, he's dead. Maybe it was just like a thing, like a human like reaction of like he's in shock and he can't believe what he's seeing. Because
I'd have already been making for the car at that point.
I was like, either that was what the director told him to do, or Nick, no offense, the actor that played Nick is just a terrible actor, because I couldn't get over that. It literally stayed with me. The way that he called on to him. So now to your cat thing.
There's a cat scare, jump scare in all these 80s, 90s, all horror movies, almost all of them have a cat scare.
Especially Friday the 13th.
So this one, they're like, it's no different. They open the closet, the cat jumps out. How long has this cat been in the closet? They've been in the house for a day and a half now. No one has heard the cat meowing in the closet. Who locked the cat in the closet if the uncle's not there and hasn't been there in a while? Who put this cat in there and just left him?
Also, how did the cat survive if there's no food in there?
No water. No food, no water. Like, how long has the cat been in here? And he's a pretty big cat. So that was my pet peeve about, I don't mind when the cat pops out of an alley or pops out around the corner and keeps on going. Or like that poor cat in Friday the 13th Part 2 that was obviously thrown through the window.
He sure was.
But this one just got me because I've had cats my whole life. That cat would have not been quiet in the closet for a day and a half.
No. Especially if he's hungry.
Yeah, they'd have known that cat was there.
Speaking about animals on set.
Yes.
They also had a random regular guy with a gun on set they had to have around because this was shot in Alabama and there were alligators.
Although I've also heard him say that was during the off season, and that guy told him that, didn't bother to tell him rather that the alligators were all asleep during that time of year.
Well, he wanted to get paid.
Yeah, I don't blame him. I would too. That just means I'm sitting there doing nothing.
Where they were staying at, one of the houses is a Topanga Canyon, which is the same house they use as the Jarvis's house.
Yeah, in like Part 4. That's where they filmed the scene.
The final chapter?
Yeah, that's where the final chapter. That's where they had to go back and refilm a couple of scenes that didn't work out because of effects. That's where when the woman finds the cat and gets thrown out the window, she's being thrown out the window of the Topanga Canyon house.
Yeah, but also she really didn't get it thrown out the window because it's one of those classic things. You could technically see it while it's happening. It's a man with a red wig
being thrown out the window.
Thrown out the window.
She said, I have some really muscular legs.
They thought that she just worked out really, really hard. This is actually, unfortunately, we'll never be able to see this actual cut because it's gone. But this film is probably the film that got sent back from the MPAA
the
most because the footage they shot was very graphic, and several of the scenes, like the sleeping bag scene, was supposed to be way more like he's just thumping her body over and over again. They only allowed one thump.
There was blood shooting out of it before. They had like a whole bunch of gallons of blood in there with it that was supposed to spray out. They ended up having to change that.
Yeah, there's many scenes. The scene when the Dr. Cruz dies is also more graphic.
Most of the scenes in this, you see, it's pretty tame considering. Most of them you see people get hit and then it cuts away. Or you see them about to get hit and it cuts away.
Yeah, they have to go back so many times. The MPAA kept sending the film back and like, no, you can't do this, or no, this has too much stuff. So, but it was all shot. So it would have been amazing to see, like, I don't even know what they would have called, like, Blood Lake edition. Blood Lake edition.
The Blood Lake edition or something like that. Now, most of the footage is available on the DVDs, but it's like a very low-grade VHS quality. And apparently, maybe now they could clean it up, but at the time they weren't able to clean it up enough to reintegrate it into the movie.
And then the other crazy thing about this film is at the ending of the film, when the house blows up, they really blew the house up. Now, let's talk about that scene, okay? Because they get to the basement, okay? And it's this is Tina and Jason have been fighting all over the place. They're in the house. They get to the basement.
Poor Kane Hodder has had the house dumped on him at this point.
Oh yeah, he actually had that house fall on him where he sustained like a lifelong injury.
Yeah, like the roof caves in on him, slams him down to the ground. He's been thrown through the stairs, and then he's been beat up in this movie.
And the one part where the light hits him in the face. Tino has the light hit him in the face, and he goes on the stairs. You can hear him groan like, ugh.
We gotta assume that was Kane Hodder, not Jason, because Jason never made a sound or anything during any of these movies.
LOL. Yes, it obviously was Kane Hodder, but
they just didn't bother to notice it. They were just like, "Oops, we left that in."
Yeah, they definitely left that in. There's no way that we've never heard Jason say anything before, so I'm gonna go with that. But this basement, though, it was already predestined to blow the fuck up. This house, The basement was a disaster. Okay, it was like, what was it? In either the Mad Men or the Burn, I think it's The Burning, where it was making fun of like they had like
the guy was sleeping next to a 5-gallon can of gasoline.
Yes, in a wooden cabin. I believe there was like a stack of papers. The freaking basement here had a gasoline tank full of gasoline. Right under it was a stack of old timey fucking newspapers, and I mean like a whole stack. There was like at least like 10, and then adjacent there was another stack of magazines. It was like no wonder the house went up the way that it did, because it already had gasoline in it. It already had all these freaking like very flammable things
for the like the actual gas lines going in and out of the house. So you've got gasoline, the gas lines going in, everything in the house that's flammable. When this place blows, this was one of those 80s things where they blew this house up and they blew it the fuck up for real. Like when you see it go, there is no doubt in your mind that this place exploded.
This is why this didn't become a 3D film, because you would have felt the fucking heat off of that.
Yeah, he said it melted some of the camera lenses. It destroyed some of the cameras that they were so close to it. I'm like, damn, that was the good old days when they were just going to blow shit up. There was no CGI. They just blew that shit up. Build a house, and so we can just blow it up later.
Now, lastly, I want to end on this note.
I have one more thing before we end, so go ahead.
Michael received some birthday presents, and sci-fi guy decides he's going to look through them. And he opens it, and one of them says, it's a penis enlarger. He opens
Personal penis enlarger.
Personal penis enlarger, and he opens it, and it's a magnifying glass.
That was those classic...
That got me fucking dying. I was laughing so hard.
That was the classic, like, Spencer's, or if anyone remembers, Helen Gallagher's was the thing before Spencer's. It was a place like that they sold that kind of stuff. They would sell envelopes that were like pregnancy test results printed on the outside. It would say like, STD results enclosed on the outside of the envelope, and that kind of stuff you could buy and just mail shit to people. It had that kind of embarrassing stuff on it. Like they had the comb for bald men, where it was like a big like a big U with a comb on the sides of it and then nothing in the middle, so they would just comb the sides of the hair.
Classic.
It had that kind of stuff.
Why don't they need to bring that back. They need to bring back these stupid ass gifts, because that's freaking hilarious.
Now, this is one of those at the time that when this movie first came out, Kane Hodder wasn't really known. He was a stunt guy who had done he made a lot of appearances in movies, but this and his subsequent appearances in Friday the 13th is what really got him noticed. And he went on, he would be in a lot of other horror movies. He'd be in all 4 of the Hatchet movies as Victor Crowley. He reprised the role of Jason in the Friday the 13th game. He even played Leatherface in the Friday the 13th motion cap. He did the motion capture for that in the Texas Chainsaw Massacre game that they just came out with. So he's done all this kind of stuff. He even got to be the hand with the Freddy glove on it that pulls the hockey mask down and Jason Goes to Hell. And he has, also been at all these conventions for all the, for the last 20 years. He's been at pretty much every convention around. He's become a staple at these things. And in 2010 was the first time that I got to meet him at one of these conventions. And like in true, horror nerd fashion, I had him sign a machete for me. He was selling the machetes there, which I always thought was kind of cool, maybe a little dangerous. You don't want to leave knives around at the table where you're at the horror convention, but whatever. And I posed for a picture with him, And the picture was
where he's choking
me out because that's his thing, where he strangles people is the thing. And I'm holding the machete up where you can see it says to Shad from Kane Hodder, and it's like Jason
789.
789, yeah. And I don't remember if I had posted that picture on Facebook or where I posted it, but the next year when I went back to the convention, I was there, and he was there again. He was handing out he was selling his book, his biography called Unmasked. And at the VIP party for Spooky Empire, everybody that got a ticket to the VIP got a copy of the book. So I got to the table, lined up, wait till they get it. He was signing. He looked up and he's like, "Oh, it's you." I said, "Oh, okay." He's like, "I think you'll like the book." I'm like, "I think I will too." Didn't really understand. Then he, said thanks. I went on, put it in my bag, went back to the rest of the party. It wasn't until I went home that night, started flipping through it, that the picture of me being choked out by him is used inside the book, where he's talking about going to the conventions, meeting people and that. And there's also a quote from me about being choked out by Jason in there as well. And I just thought that was really cool that, he recognized me like a year later. He's like, "Oh, that's the guy I choked out in the picture. That's cool." And
he's choked out so many people.
Yeah. But yeah, he remembers it. So I just thought that was kind of cool. And I've run into him a few times at conventions since, and it's always nice. He still seems to remember me and say hi. And I just always thought that was cool. That was my 15 minutes of horror fame, was being in the book.
That is really cool. And your face in the picture, though, I feel like is what makes it, because usually people will like smile, but you're like really like you look like you're getting choked out. Like, you know.
But when he said, "I'm going to choke you for the picture," is that okay? I said yes, because I thought he was just going to put his hand around my neck and pretend to choke me.
Yeah.
No, he lifted me up on my toes. He's a big dude, and he just picked me up, and I'm like, "Oh, okay, this is happening. Please take the picture quickly. Whatever settings are on the camera is fine."
I did not know that.
Yeah. Like I'm up on my toes in that picture. That's why I have that look on my face.
And Shad is like 5'8", so that's a lot for him to be putting you on your toes.
Yeah. But so that's my interaction with Kane Hodder. I was obviously that was the 2010 one, was one of the first ones I went to where I met like all the big people from horror. Him, Robert Englund, I think that was the same one where Gunnar Hansen was there.
It was a good year for you.
Yeah, it was a good year. It was lots of people there. John Saxon, I got to give John Saxon a drink. That was cool.
So now you actually told me, which you have not mentioned, that this is the first movie you've seen of Friday the 13th in the theater.
Yep, this was the others I had all seen on HBO or Creature Features at some point back during the 80s when they used to run that. And this one, Joplin was kind of weird about how they brought movies in. I don't remember this one coming first run. It showed up at the Dollar Theater that summer, and of course, I was even happier about that because it only cost $1 to go see it. But yeah, it was the first one. I saw it on either a Friday or Saturday night with a packed house. Like, there was no empty seats in that place. Which I think is the best way to see these kind of horror movies like that. Go to see it with a packed, rowdy house, where normally I want people to be quiet so I can enjoy the movie, but this kind of movie, I don't care if people are yelling out at the screen. In the first place, I only paid $1 for it, so I can't be too mad. This was one of those ones I do remember someone yelled out like, "Oh shit!" real, like when he punched someone through the back, and it's always fun to see them like that. I do enjoy seeing these kind of crazy movies like that.
What do you give this movie rating?
I'm kind of biased because of all the things I've said about it before, so I'd give this one this is a 3-knifer for me. It's a lot of fun.
3 knives from Mr. Youngblood.
Yeah, there's a lot of emotional connections to it.
Yeah, I'm not judging you and your 3 knives.
Oh, it seems a little judgy.
Well, not being a fan of Friday the 13th, I should say Jason Voorhees. I like the first film. But I don't know. I think when you start incorporating things that are just not the typical in a slasher, telekinesis, come on guys, it's a lot. So I'm gonna give it 2 knives. I can't give it 3 knives.
They've all been so realistic up to this point. I can see where it would.
How dare you? Okay, hey, I just said I wasn't a fan. The first one, like, freaking classic. That just, You know, they should have just stopped there, to be honest.
Most of these they should have stopped there, to be honest.
I mean, the Halloween 2 is pretty fucking good.
It's pretty good, but
pretty good.
If there's only been one, we'd still be okay. Nightmare on Elm Street, if there's only been one,
well, technically, I'm going to have to stop you there, sir. Okay, I'm going to have to stop you there. Technically, Halloween 2 is in the same night. So
it's a separate movie.
Is one movie, but it is one movie, though. Where's that cut? Someone needs to make that cut where they just combine the two movies. And it's the same movie. It's in the same night. It takes place literally like an hour later. It's not like it's like the next day or a year later. It's the same evening, which also classic. So I see 1 and 2 to be in the same. And then you really don't get them back. You really don't get him back until part 4. So, you know, and 4 and 5 I like also the same. 4 and 5 there's a difference, but I do like 4 and 5. But it just gets to be, like you said, when it's just like the realm of it's not going to be a thing.
Well, what was crazy about these movies in the 80s too was that like they came out with one of these Friday the 13th almost every year. Like they had one in like 80, 81, 82, 83, 84, and then they like 85. I think they 86. I think they skipped a year here and there. Maybe they skipped a year here and there, but from like 1980 to 1989 or 90, whenever Jason Takes Manhattan came out, they were almost out every year, which I thought was what, you know, when the Saw movie started doing that, I was like, oh, we're finally just going back to that. We're just going to crank out one of these every year and have it ready for Halloween, you know?
Yeah.
Which Saw did it for what, from 2004 to 2010 or 11?
Ooh, and those later movies are just bad.
Yeah, but at the same time, they didn't overthink it. I think part of the reason they haven't been able to get one of these out is because they're just overthinking it.
Well, also the whole rights thing.
Yeah, the rights thing. And then like before that, they were just overthinking what it needs to be.
And I just want, we've mentioned this on many other podcasts. This is your first time listening. I just want to say this again. I want to put this out in the world. When it all gets said and done, okay, with the rights and the blah blah and the blue, all that, and you're finally able to greenlit Friday the 13th, part 13. Don't fuck it up, okay?
Yeah, please don't.
Don't fuck it up, okay?
I just want one thing from that movie.
Winter.
I want a winter scene where they're like, oh, the new goalie's here. And they see him just coming out across the ice.
And it's a Curtains moment. Like in Curtains, when she's on the fucking skates and she's just skating towards you and she's gonna chop that fucking bitch's head off. It's Jason, yes. And that's it's a Curtains moment.
He's coming across the ice. Maybe there's a little bit of fog on the ice. And he's coming and they're like, oh my God, the new goalie's here and he's huge. What the hell? And they walk up to him and before they know what's happening, there's no more
heads
hockey
are rolling.
team. Yep, there's no more hockey team. And he has to hit at least one head into the goal.
That's how the movie opens.
That's the cold open to the movie. Get it? Cold open?
Yep, that's the cold open, yep.
And then it just comes up when the last head goes in. It comes up to the Friday the 13th, busts through the screen again. Part 13. Send us our check, Hollywood. We've already done the work for you. You don't need a stinking AI. You've got all this brain power right here. Just send us a check.
Yeah, I would die. I would be in the theater like, whoa! Mind you, we've only seen like 5 to 7 minutes of the movie. And I'm already like out of my seat.
But do we need to just get up and leave at that point? Have we seen everything we need to?
We're done. We're done. We don't need to see anything else. Yeah, don't fuck it up. Or don't, you know what? Just don't even make the movie. Because if you're not going to go in there, or if you're going to tell me it's like, whatever, the Jon Favreau of fucking horror, like, whoever's like, oh, this person knows like Friday the 13th in and out, they're gonna be canon to it, like they're gonna freaking make this shit amazing, you know, that okay, then you know, but don't do it disservice. We've been waiting a really freaking long time for this, and when I mean
2009 since the last one of these.
I'm speaking solely for Shad because he's a fucking fan. Like I'm like whatever about it.
Listen, I had a kid across the street explain the plot to the first Friday the 13th to me blow by blow. Literally, we sat down in my yard and he explained everything because his older brother took him to the drive-in to see it. And he explained everything in great detail, from everything that was said to the strip Monopoly game to the hand coming up, stabbing the arrow through the thing, which he deemed incredibly unrealistic, because how could a woman be strong enough to shove an arrow up through a bed like that? And then how could an arrow even be strong enough to do that? He had a lot of questions that I feel like his older brother was smoking a lot of weed in the car at the drive-in and asking these questions.
But they were valid fucking questions.
Valid questions, yes.
Valid questions.
He explained it all to me, to the point that I was talking about it to someone else, and my mom actually asked, "How do you know about that? You haven't seen that movie." Oh, I know. I know things about it.
And you were in love. You're like, I have to see this movie.
I got to see this movie. And it was a while before I actually got to see it. I remember when I actually got to see one on HBO or whatever. I'm sure that's where it was, because that was where I saw most of the horror movies, was HBO. I remember seeing The Fog for the first time on HBO. And
yeah, likewise. I saw The Predator on HBO. That was like where you went. The home box office. That's where you went to go see your
opening
film.
That they always played for the movie. And you were like, yes, play it. Yeah. So that's why this one was... I did have like a marathon with a friend of mine before we saw this one. We watched... because HBO showed like a couple of them before this, and we watched like part 4 and part 5. We didn't see part 6 at that point, but we went to see, I think we might have went and rented part 6, but we watched several of them, then we went to see this one later on when it came in. So we were pretty happy about it. But yeah, a lot of this to me is just the nostalgia of them, of as a little kid just hearing all these things. Like I'm like 9 years old hearing about all these murders, going, excited, oh my God, they got their head chopped off. Yeah. Then you would hear from someone else, like, oh my God, he like threw a knife across the room or whatever, and it was just amazing, because it would be cool when you saw it, but in your head, when you're 9 years old and you're hearing this story, it was way cooler in your head,
Yeah, I can't even imagine. Like, I can't imagine that. But having someone literally like describe the movie to you blow by blow, that's
it was pretty cool.
It's what you just said about like a kid like getting so excited over a horror movie. It literally reminds me like in the Monster Squad, when they're wanting to watch that crazy freaking slasher in the drive-in, and they're watching it from their house, which I'm like, I wish I lived in a house where I can see the drive-in from my house. Yeah. That's pretty dope. But yeah, that excitement of it all is just, I wish I had those feelings of like...
Yeah, well, there was a lot of that back in, I'm old enough that there was no internet. And there was, Fangoria magazine wasn't even a thing until, I think, after Friday the 13th came out. So you had to rely on what you heard from other people to get all this stuff. And I remember my first exposure to Alien wasn't the movie, but it was the graphic novel that Walter Simonson did, like in his adaptation of it, where it's pretty much the movie. And I think I saw that at the library or something, but I read that before I saw the movie of Alien, so I already knew everything that was going to happen in Alien. So Alien didn't freak me out because I already knew the thing was going to bust out of the chest. I already knew that was going to happen. And there were a few things like that where I either read the graphic novel of it or, someone told me all about it. It was a long time before I saw horror movies that weren't spoiled by other people.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much for joining us on another episode of Jump Scare, the horror podcast. Stay tuned to the horror. And happy Friday the 13th!
Yay!
And now, folks, it's time to say goodnight. We sincerely appreciate your patronage and hope we've succeeded in bringing you an enjoyable evening of entertainment. Please drive home carefully and come back again soon. Good night.